Washington is a nation that's completely alone at this point. And Marco Rubio going to Sweden to address NATO, I think, is a perfect example of that, because he goes there and he still tries to act like the hegemon. He acts like the leader. He dictates imperatives on other nations that they have to fulfill. But I really want to talk about Marco Rubio for the past 48 hours, because this is the architect of the blockade in Cuba, the largest humanitarian crisis on the Western Hemisphere right now. And he's responsible for 11 million people who are starving, without power, without clean water, without health care, with reports of 1,800 premature infant deaths happening since the beginning of the blockade. And 48 hours ago, he decided, instead of going ahead and giving them aid, which there's a negotiation on that it looks like that was accepted, but there's a lot of caveats on that, and that's going to break down. What he did was flip his phone on a horizontal and decide to film a selfie that he airdropped to Cuba. His stance, essentially, was that the Cuban people need to pick themselves up by their own bootstraps and go ahead and charge the Soviet-era T-72 tanks with nothing more than a rusted butter knife and a dream. And then he's going to fly to Sweden to dress down the NATO countries and to lecture them on moral obligation.
The folks in the Department of War and over at NATO make those announcements, but this is not a decision that was made on the back of a napkin. I mean, this has been an ongoing process involving other countries as well, and the contributions they can make. It's not just our force posture, it's what other countries can contribute as well to come up with something that works for NATO and that's realistic and that allows us to force posture, for example, in a true front conflict. So, but again, this is all technical work that's being done by military people. These are not political decisions.
Now, in this clip, he's talking about the U.S. troop movements from Germany to Poland, 5,000 troops that are getting moved from one country to another. And he's talking about this decision is not being made on the back of a napkin. But I think we all know that that's objectively false at this point. The relationship that the President of the United States has with the leader of Poland is something beyond the geopolitical lens. It's because the President of Poland has the right personal chemistry that Trump is attracted to. He is a nationalist leader. And what Rubio is trying to do here is escape culpability. Because, I mean, that's the entire job of people like Rubio or even J.D. Vance. He really fails at it. And that's why he's not the presidential frontrunner for the Republican Party in 2028. But their whole job is to really just perform some kind of geopolitical shell game that alleviates any kind of pressure or blame from the President of the United States and shove it right into the faces of the Europeans. And honestly, they've just had enough of it at this point. He's going to sit up there with a straight face and tell the European press corps that Pentagon functions like a Swiss watch. But folks, you don't do tactical adjustments in the Pentagon like this and so flippantly. This is because the leadership in the United States policy is dictated like a teenager going through mood swings.
So obviously, one of the things that I've always used, and I've long been an advocate for NATO in my time in the Senate, and one of the arguments I always made was that these bases in the region provided us logistical options that we wouldn't otherwise have. And when some of those bases are denied to you during a conflict that we're involved in, then you question whether that value is still there. So that's going to have to be discussed. There's no doubt about it. I think there's also going to have to be some focus on how, a year after the meeting at The Hague, how much progress has been made in terms of the increased contributions. There are some countries that have doubled their defense spending over the last few years. There are others that are still lagging. In the end, the goal is to have a NATO that is strong, and the stronger our NATO.
See, I was hoping that he was going to address this because certain NATO nations, especially like Spain, who have just been denying access to this administration to propel their campaigns, to propel their military options, or use their airspace in conducting missions into Iran. I was hoping they were going to talk on this. This is definitely a sore subject in the White House right now, and it's been framed as a kind of betrayal to Washington, D.C., because you have to remember that Washington, D.C. believes itself to be not just the moral, but the supreme military leader of NATO. So to object to it, to show that kind of insubordination, they believe that there should be some kind of punitive response. And you saw that coming from the leaked emails from the Pentagon. But it's in moments like this when you do get to see past the veil that people like Marco Rubio, what they actually are just a spokesman or salesman for the military industrial complex in the United States of America. Because the Pearl program, all the excess military spending that's being done, the markup to the 4.5% GDP, that all goes into the American military industrial complex. And so when you do see nations show themselves to be insubordinate and not fall in line, it's more because the revenue streams that the US has been forcing Europe to dump their resources into isn't as flush as they want it to be. And of course, you even had the President of the United States saying that he was going to tariff Spain's economy into oblivion. And all this is meant to say is if you try to assert your sovereignty, and the full understanding that Article 5 cannot be invoked for an offensive mission, it is a defensive pact. And if you don't follow the US on this military operation, then they're going to cancel your security guarantee. Like I said, this isn't an alliance, this isn't an extortion racket. And that's why Spain itself is moving away from the F-35 project to buy the Turkish car, I believe. And you see other nations all over Europe, other NATO nations that are moving to the Buy European movement, keeping their resources within the nation, not enriching or being reliant on the US military industrial complex.
Yeah, the peace negotiations on Ukraine under American leadership, let me just say, we got involved, okay, because we were told we were the only ones that could do it. We were the only ones that the Russians and the Ukrainians would talk to. So we got involved. They were not fruitful, unfortunately.
Swedish companies for a very
we stand
long
ready
time.
to
The peace negotiations on Ukraine under American leadership, let me just say, we got involved.
True, despite stories out there about us forcing the Ukrainians to take this position or that position, which are not true.
So we got involved.
If we see an opportunity to pull
we stand
together
ready to continue to play that role. Despite
are productive,
leaks
not
that are not
counterproductive,
true, despite stories out there about us forcing the Ukrainians to take this position or that position, which are not
There are
true.
no such talks occurring at this
If we
time.
see an
But we
opportunity
hope that will change
to
because
pull
that war
together
can only end with a negotiated
talks.
settlement. It will not end with a military victory by one side or the other, at least from a traditional standpoint of how military victories are defined. So it will have to lead, and if we can play a role in making that happen, the president is very much interested in doing it. We just, over the last few months, just sort of sensed that there wasn't a lot of progress being made, but maybe dynamics will change, and if they do, we stand ready to play whatever constructive role we can play. If someone else would like to handle it, they should, but it doesn't appear to be anybody else in the world right now that can handle it, so we're more than happy to do that. If
the speed in which this administration from the United States moved to extract as much wealth from the European continent through the war in Ukraine is shocking, and honestly is something that's going to go down through history. We've already talked about Pearl. That's an obvious thing. But kind of the backhanded deals that have been happening behind the scenes, and not even talking about the tribunal that was signed just the other day, criminalizing Russia's aggression towards the Ukraine. The US set up under Joe Biden, and Donald Trump refused to sign it because this is moving towards transactional diplomacy. In transactional diplomacy, honestly, it undermines the whole idea of an alliance, because when you look at an alliance purely through the quantitative and not the qualitative, like I honestly believe that Europe does, then it's not a real alliance, because in that kind of relationship there's no real loyalty. Nothing goes beyond the numbers. Nothing goes beyond the quid pro quo. There's no idea of moral or honorable obligation. And I don't think anybody's surprised that the U.S. military and this administration right now is turned away from anything that can be associated with honor or morality. Like I said, you were talking about Marco Rubio. This guy right now has a stranglehold on 11 million people in Cuba and decided to come to Sweden and lecture NATO about moral obligation. I mean, it's a farce. It's absolutely absurd to watch. The emperor is marching down the street completely naked and loudly declaring that he is the very best tailor. I mean, that's the level of delusion that we're actually seeing come from this administration right now. And that's why the United States is a rogue nation. That is why they are alone geopolitically. They have no ground to stand on. And the people that they condemn the most, China, they're constantly trying to do backdoor deals with. Because this administration knows, even though they're going to tell the American people and tell the world how invulnerable our economy is, they know just how vulnerable and weak our economy, our military, because its stockpiles are depleted. and the morality of the United States in general truly is. We're not a moral leader of the world, of NATO. We're not the leader of the free world. I'd argue that Canada is at this point. And that's why you're seeing Europe and Canada build a strong European pillar that's going to fill up NATO. The US approaches NATO like this, the hub and spoke, right? The hub of the wheel is the United States, and the spokes are the NATO countries. You can do without a couple of the spokes and the wheel is still going to turn, but without the hub, the wheel no longer functions. So Europe is building a hub, and each country of NATO is going to be a spoke. This does away with the transactional philosophy behind the American approach to the NATO alliance, because if other NATO countries decide to go down that road, then every NATO country becomes a pay-for-play power, and no alliance can actually function like that. Like I said, America has become a false hegemon, really a hegemon in its own self-belief at this point, but it doesn't truly have any real power on the main stage. And what power it does have left, it's slipping through its fingers as NATO countries, Canada, Mercosur, Southeast Asia looking to build their own NATO outside of the purview of the United States. The world's moving on. America's alone. Marco Rubio, you can get up there, but everyone knows that 11 million people right now are starving while you're up there smiling and going to dinner parties in Sweden. Food for thought as always. Take care.